Welcome back to The Person That Everyone Needs. My name is Webb Hoggard, and we are going to be talking about parenting the person that everyone needs for the next few weeks. I'm excited to talk about this. It's one of my great passions to see parents thrive. This is some of the most trying times, and I hope that maybe if you're listening and you don't have a child yet, I hope that you will take this to heart, because once you get into the thick of it, it's really hard to learn while you're in the midst of it. It's one of those things you kind of have to prepare for before you get there. And so I hope that maybe you're listening today and you'll be encouraged by that. Today, we're going to talk about the topic of creating clarity in your home. I'm one who advocates for mission statements. I like mission statements. They've been a benefit to me. I've got a family mission statement. I've got values that I have created for our family. I've got little mottos that we sometimes say. We've encouraged each other, and I think I've shared some of those with you. But really, what you need to decide is with you and your spouse, and or if you have one, or if you don't, just begin to dream about this. But what are the things that you want to see as the highest qualities, the highest values, the highest characteristics of your family? So clarity in a family mission statement is helpful. Essential for clarity. I told my boys that our little motto at our house is be strong, be courageous, be wise, be kind, and be steadfast. For years, we would say those things over and over again at night. We would kind of yell them with each other. Har, har, this was kind of our thing. But I wanted them to be strong. I wanted them to, and I have explained what each one of these words mean to them. Strength is about having the ability to do something, to not just be physically strong, but be emotionally, intellectually strong. Courageous is being about all the heart, not being intimidated by anything, but running after things. Being wise, I want them to be cunning and intelligent. I want them to know how to handle circumstances, to have understanding and wisdom. To be kind. I want them to consider others. In everything they do, I want them to be able to consider others. And then lastly, be steadfast. I want them to be finishers. I want them to be ones who can look back and say, I ran the race. I fought the fight. I've made it to the end. And no matter what it is, even if that's third grade, I want them to be able to say, I have done everything that's required of me. I also, want them to clean themselves at night in a certain way. So I even have a bath time motto. It may not be something that is helpful to anybody else, but I wanted them to know where to start and where to end. So one night I was with my son Luke, and I said, okay, wash your hair, buddy. And then when you're done with that, you go shoulder to hand. Then wash your front and your back. That's your belly and chest, and then your back. And then wash from your legs to your feet. And I had this little weird thing where I'd be legs to your feet, so that they would know that they're supposed to wash their whole leg. And then I said, I used some little noises for their privates, because, that's not always, it's a little more awkward. And so our little thing was we'd make those noises together and giggle and laugh or whatever as they would wash themselves. And now they know how to clean their whole bodies. Okay, the awkward part is over. But my point is, I created some expectations for them, because I wanted them to know when they are confused about what needs to be washed or where they need to start. I wanted to help them with that, okay? I'll tell you some other things that I've used as far as memorization goes. Is my oldest son, I've taught him essential scriptures, at least what I think is essential. I've taught him the Lord's Prayer and Psalm 23 and 1 Corinthians 13 and John chapter 1, that when he needs to call on different scriptures, that those things will be there. I'm just trying to help create clarity for him, because life is very confusing and difficult. And so I'm trying to give him some tracks. Okay, so go back to the top, family mission statement. What are the values that you care most about? What are the values that you want to be number one in your family? One of my personal values is honesty. And I tell my sons that. If you want my trust, you have to stay honest with me. If you ever lie, I'll never trust you again. My dad told me that as a young boy, and I never forgot it. So that's what I want personally, but in my family, I want us to be strong, courageous, wise, kind, and steadfast. That doesn't need to be your motto. I'm not encouraging you to have that as yours, but you need to decide the way you want your family to run, what you want your family to aspire to. That's the direction that you want to go. In those values, you need to think of some things that are, first of all, specifically to you. Years ago, I realized that basically the job of a father is to provide, to protect, and then to, I like to say, project, which is to lead, create the direction for the home. He's the one who has to keep it safe, so he's the one who has to keep the direction. Now, that doesn't mean the wife doesn't also provide leadership and direction and help. A mother's job, I summed it up in 2 words, is basically to nurture and to nourish. That she's the one who softens up everything. The dad does all he can to create the house, and she does everything she can to create the home. Now, I know there people are gifted in different ways, and so I'm not sitting here trying to tell you that that a dad cannot nourish the family or nurture the family. Absolutely, those things can be intertwined. But as far as responsibilities go, if a marriage or a family fails, if it was based on provision, it will be the father's fault. If it was based on protection, it'll be the father's fault. If it's based on the direction, it'll be the father's fault. And so I'm just trying to encourage you, when you think about how your family's supposed to roll, make sure that you're increasing in the areas that you're going to be expected to maintain responsibility. Protect, provide, project. Part of protection is knowing that you are the one who has to say no. You need to say no for your children, I'm telling you, I'm not saying you need to say no to your children. You'll have to do that too. But there's some things in their life that you have to be able to say no. Mom, Dad, if you're listening to this, you are the chief no officer in your children's life. You cannot expect the grandparents to say no because they won't. You cannot expect teachers to say no because they're taught not to say no. You can't expect their friends to say no or their friends' parents to say no. It is your job to create firm guardrails in their life. And I know that sounds restrictive and painful and hurtful, and I don't know if they'll love me, and I know you're concerned about that, but saying no is a way of creating clarity for your children. It's very important that they know that they have safety, they have security in having something, a guardrail of some sort in their life. You have to be able to be the one that says, no, we're not going to let you do that. And so the reason this is important is because you also need to understand that it's in their childhood. Their childhood is the place where failure is the safest, and they can learn the most about their limitations. And so your job as a parent is to inspire them to try a lot. You can say no to certain things, but we should not be sitting around popping their hands for trying new things when they jump out of trees or when they want to swing in the swing by standing up in it and that kind of thing. If we take away all of their opportunities to learn, then they probably won't learn. So your kids will never have more potential right now, and they'll never have less interest to figure out what their potential is. Your job is to give them inspiration during this time. Inspiration becomes an essential skill of parents during this season. Now, so I told you to say no, and then I told you that you need to let them do some stuff. Okay, so what I'm trying to tell you is you can't say yes to everything, but in the moments that they're trying to be creative or imaginative and trying to find out new things, that's how they're going to find out what they're good at. And so you need to create a safe space for them to fail. Because one of the issues that I'm seeing in our young people today is they have no confidence. They do not think that they can do anything because most of the time they've been told either they can't by parents, grandparents, teachers. Someone around them has told them they were incapable of accomplishing something. Or worse, they tried it one time and it didn't come naturally, and so they think it's not, quote unquote, their thing. Many of the things that will be a part of who they are, they'll have to give more effort than just one time, and that's where you find joy in it. I mean, the practice of basketball is where you get good, not the ball game. And too many people want to walk out on the court and show off who they are when they haven't put in the time in the practice place. I see that with people on worship teams and wanting music. Every time someone sees a piano, they want to sit down and play. And then they'll complain, well, I can't play as good as you can. Well, you haven't put in the time I have. It's not about me being more gifted or more blessed or more talented by God. I have put in the time. And I want my kids to be people who find something worth working at and then doing it. It's my job to inspire my kids to doing the difficult things that will pay off in the long run. And then the last thing I want to mention about clarity is your children should recognize that you favor them over everything else except for God and your spouse. They should see that they are your priority in your expenses and your time and your attention and your concern. There is nothing else more important in your life outside of God and your spouse than those children. They should be reminded of that over and over again. If you continuously communicate that work matters more than they do, they'll believe it. If you regularly communicate that friends or a habit or an addiction of some sort or the way you need to spend time on the weekends matters more than they do, they'll believe it. The way you spell love to kids is Time. The way you spell love is time. That's the only way they'll know. So what are you doing with your time to communicate to your kids you matter? Now, I only mention that to you to say, if you're trying to create clarity, time is where you're going to do it. Make the things clear for your children that matter most. So what are some other things that need to be made clear? I'm a Bible-believing person, and so one thing that I wish parents would make clear is Sunday, we are going to church. There is no option. We are going to church. Secondly, I believe in marriage, and I'm going to be in my bed with my wife every single night, and my kids don't have to worry about that. That's something that is huge to me. That's clarity that I want to create for them every single day. I want to create clarity for them that family matters, that we're going to make sure that we see their grandparents and their cousins as often as we possibly can. I want to constantly create clarity for them on the things that matter most to me. And right now, in their character at least, I want them to be strong, courageous, wise, kind, and steadfast, because I feel like I'm parenting the person that everyone needs. We'll see you next week.